being asked with regard to the amounts of the appropriation and what exactly they were going to be used for. I don't see the member here who was asking the question. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, we're not going to sit down here all evening now. All this time we've been waiting.
We got very little left to do, sir.
So I call in your attention to the fact that we are here, they're not here, but the lady who was called to answer the question is here. So please let her to go ahead and ask that.
Mr. Chairman, just to keep the peace, the member that has the questions left to go in the dining room because it was our dinner break. The member from Savannah is going to call them back.
No, Mr. Chairman, come. There was no dinner break, Mr. Chairman. There was no dinner break. That was over. They went out when we took the break to get the lady here.
I only made the call very shortly, so I will go ahead and give them a minute or two to assemble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We will proceed.
Mr. Chair.
Minister, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the members for the questions. As we saw it, the members wanted more explanation on some of these votes. So I brought the chief officer of the ministry, and she's going to explain further.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Hearn, Chief Officer in the Ministry of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing. I understand that there were questions around what is being intended with the appropriation for the remediation of Georgetown landfill in preparation for the integrated solid waste management system, and that there was some concern that in our previous examination of EI 53 during Finance Committee, that the ministry had indicated that we would not be remediating the Georgetown landfill. What is proposed is that the landfill, what is envisioned is that the landfill will be capped and closed on all 3 islands. That can be construed as remediating it. Remediation will be part of the process leading up to the closure. What we indicated that we had not intended to proceed with and what is not going to be proceeded with is the mining of the landfill prior to the closure of it. So we did discuss at Finance Committee at some length whether and why the policy decision not to mine the landfill had been taken. And as we outlined at the time, the concern is that it would prolong the nuisance and that the benefit of doing so did not outweigh the impact, the negative impact of prolonging that nuisance by mining it. So the policy decision was taken earlier on in the procurement process not to proceed with mining the Georgetown landfill or any of the landfills. However, what is envisioned and what this drawdown from the Environmental Protection Fund is meant to fund is the remediation and closure of the landfills as part of the integrated solid waste management system.
Member Freestone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Ahern just said that maybe we have said that there wouldn't be no remediation of the landfill. We didn't say any such thing. What we said, which we understood from Finance Committee, was that the solid waste management system would come online the end of 2020, early 2021. That was my understanding of it. At this time, there would be no remediation, which is not unusual to have remediation after you have done the alternate system. That is not unusual in the system. Our concern surrounded why and what are we part of that remediation is being conducted in this year, coming year, 2018 and 19. That because it is in advance of us and of us having an integrated system. the waste energy and the likes. We understood that it was going to be capped. Whether there were some thoughts one way or the other with that, digging it out. The decision was to cap it. Now, we need to know in detail of what this $4.6 million is going to remediate and what the $8,050,000 is going to remediate, what part of the remediation that entails.
Mr. Chair, through you, the details regarding the timing of the activities that will be done are details that are being finalized through the current contract negotiation process. The figures that have been included in the budget for this purpose are based on estimates that we've been given by our technical advisors, AMEC Foster Wheeler, regarding costs that they've seen for similar size projects in other jurisdictions. There's also in the SPS in 2020, there were funds included, about $10 million in 2020, reflecting that most of the closure activity will be occurring after, as you've pointed out, the integrated system has come online. My understanding is that as we move forward, they will be able to start moving towards the ultimate closure by closing off certain sections of the landfill that are no longer part of the working phase, preparing the site for some of those types of activities. But as I mentioned, the details about it have yet to be finalized because they're subject to the contract negotiations that are currently ongoing.
Mr. Chairman, therein lies the concerns and problems that we are going to be experiencing with this, because we don't know what those details are, because it can be a number of things, such as pumping gas, fitting the dump out with gas extractors, fitting it out with whether we're going to use it to compress the gas, we're using scrubbers to separate it. We don't know. We don't know if we're going to burn it off into the atmosphere, which are all the possibilities of a capped landfill. And we're being asked to vote this money, and nobody has the details on it, which is unfortunate, because the policy needs to be made as to what methods are we going to use, and if that is part of the bidding process, why is government in it? Is government going to be paid back that money? Because it's going to be operated by the contractors, I would think, and they're going to recover through waste energy. What is the question. What methods are going to be used? What's the policy on it with regards to those methods? Have the government come to a decision on what methods are going to be used? Which one is more suitable for this country? In my case, I was going to dig it out. I decided to dig it out. That was the policy we made, to use it as stock and then sell all of the topsoil, which was like 65%. I think that it was showing it. So we need some kind of understanding as to what direction the country is taking in this regard. We can't just. I knew we were going to spend $10 million to buy the equipment to dig out. I knew all that. So we knew that those were the expenditures that we were going through, but we don't know what is happening here. If we're going to prepare the first phase, if we're going to cap it with a membrane, and I don't know. Is that I don't know, and none of us knows.
Mr. Chair, through you, the plan is to close all 3 landfills on all 3 islands. My understanding is that will involve capping them with an impermeable membrane in order to minimize the amount of water that's going into them and therefore minimize the leachate coming off the landfills. As to the details, the technical details of what type of membrane, how many feet of subsoil and soil on top, and the timing of those are the things that are currently subject to finalization through the negotiation, the competitive dialogue negotiation process that is ongoing, and with the preferred bidder. And members will recall that the overall system is an integrated system where the plan is to have certain components come online in advance of the final piece being the waste-to-energy plant and the ultimate closure of the landfills. So components such as yard waste composting, expanded household waste recycling, a household waste recycling center, those pieces of the system will be coming online over the next 3 years once the contract has been finalized.
Mr. Chairman, therein lies that we're hearing those things now. As to the timelines on some of the stuff coming in place, this remediation, this is specific now. We're talking, what's it? $12.5 million in 2 years. What precisely will it be spent on? Because there's nothing here to suggest or to indicate what that entails. We know that the dump has probably 1/3 of the dump is an old dump that conjures up some concerns, such as gas being accumulating underneath there. That's when you get in the dump there. You remember where those tires were. We don't know what we're going to do.
Mr. Chairman, with respect, I don't think any of these, this particular detailed technical questioning is really a matter for Finance Committee anyhow. But if it were to be considered by Finance Committee, the appropriate time was when the matter was being dealt with and we were voting on the appropriation. With respect, we've agreed as Finance Committee, and the member was here for the member speaking before me was here for the entire length of Finance Committee. We voted and we've appropriated these funds. What we are now seeking to do by virtue of another motion is approval to use funds for this purpose, for these purposes which have already been appropriated from the Environmental Protection Fund. I do not know that any of us in here are any technical experts and able to talk about gases here and gases there. That is a matter for technical matters. Not even the chief officer can answer those questions properly. The government has at great expense hired top quality specialists who are dealing with these things. The chief officer has explained what government's policy is broadly, which is, I think, quite within the remit of Finance Committee. We are not going to mine the landfill. We are going to cap them. The landfills, we're going to cap them and so forth and so on. But this business about permeable or impermeable or gas coming off or gas not, nobody in this room, including the member speaking, has any technical training or qualifications to question these things. So I don't know why we're going into all of this on a motion to ask whether or not we should use the money. If the member does not support what the government is doing, he can vote against it.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect to the Premier, much of what he said is correct. The technical aspects of it is not available. But we were not told what the money was going to be used for in Finance Committee. No, we were not told where that monies were coming from. No, how much was going to be spent on remediation? No one can hold. Now you come in here with it saying remediation. You haven't, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect. I am not asking what about membrane. I'm asking what part of the remediation we are going to do. Mr. Chairman, hang on. Mr. Chairman, besides, we are voting monies out of a fund for which makes up and which is an integral part of the reserves of this country. Now, you need to tell us if it is not needed. So it's not considered in no reserve in accordance with the FFR? It is not? Ask him.
Answer what? The question whether okay. I'm advised by the FS that is not part of our reserves as such.
Sir.
Member from Bontown had a question, and then I'll come to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to my own clarity, I noticed as part of the description with regards to the 1.5 million, it said that this latter amount is an element of appropriation HES 21, which is environmental services and research. Now, I noticed from my notes there that I had questioned the increase year on year, where it moved from an annualized cost of 3.6 million to 4.9 million, which was 1.3 million increase. And I recall the note was that it would have been for, I guess, technical consultant services. So I just want for my own clarity, if the 1.5 million that we're taking out now, if the bulk of that money will be used on consultants. Because that was the reason, that was what was given to us as the reason for the excuse. Sorry, the reason for the increase by the 1.3 million. So if the 1.5 million is a consultant, and I accept that we have already voted for it, and now we're looking to fund what we have paid for, which I understand. But I just want to make sure, for clarity, if this 1.5 million is going towards mostly consultant costs.
But we know what for.
But the description is off. I just need to understand.
Fair question.
Mr. Chair, through you. The output HES 21 is Environmental Services and Research, which is the AP&E output for the Department of Environment. I think the member, when we were asked about the consultancy for the ISWIMs, the fees were included in HES 1, which is the Policy Advice and Ministerial Services for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing. So the question about the consultant, the costs, the fees for the consultants for the Integrated Solid Waste Management System were in regards to HES 1 and HES 21, which is the output that the EPF motion is referring to, is the rolled up output for the Department of Environment, which would not include the Integrated Solid Waste Management System.
Thank you. So just to be clear, well, I'm just trying to understand, is the 1.5 million as the member for West Bay Central? So it is, no, I just want to make clear, it's the Cullen, is it the Cullen then that way? What is the 1.5 million for? Is it? Okay. We went through a lot of stuff. I'm just trying to understand what it is.
Mr. Chair, as I advised the committee already, it's for the culling of the iguanas, for the traffic calming measures in Little Cayman, for the rock iguana, so legal advice, for the stingray study, for the Cayman parrot amnesty, and for the coral reef restoration.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can the minister elaborate on the coral reef restoration? Which one is that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, is the member asking for the exact reef or? No,
Mr. Chairman, I'm asking what project is that?
Mr. Chair, through you, this is for the advice in relation to the restoration of coral reef sites, which has experienced physical damage, so it's not just one area.
But doesn't the law require the person who damaged the reef to pay for its restoration? I don't have no trouble finding my little guy now. I said with 3 conks. They'll arrest him for 3 out of the season, yeah. Oh. No, man, 3 out of the season I'm talking about. Mr. Chairman, I have a question for clarity. It doesn't appear that we know exactly how much of this 4.6 million we're going to spend in 2018. If we vote for 4.6 million for 2018 and 4.6 million is not drawn down, can they add that what's left of the 4.6 million to the 8.5 million for 2019?
No, sir. We can't carry forward.
Can't be carried forward.
The appropriation cannot be carried forward.
Okay.
We'd have to be reappropriate and have a supplementary.
Okay.
And I would direct the member to clause 4 of the appropriation law, its bill itself, which says specifically that.
But the question is, can they draw it down without invoices for expenditure?
The answer, sir, is no, because I am the one really would have to pull the trigger to authorize the transfer, and I wouldn't take that kind of a step without knowing what invoices there were, what the costs were before we actually make the transfer. They would have to be incurred or contracted for before I would actually approve those the fund transfers.
And if I could ask, just for information, as an aside, how much of the 6 million that was authorized to be drawn down in the last financial period for the purchase of land for environmental purposes was actually drawn down? You don't have to be exact. You know.
I'm going to have to ask my chief officer to try and elucidate on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, what I can say to the honourable member and the committee is that not a significant amount of the 6 million has actually been used, and I will, as was said off mic earlier, I undertake to provide the amount of the 6 million that has actually been used, and give that to honourable members of the committee. But my memory and my knowledge is that very little of the 6 million previously approved has actually been used.
And so the 61.3 million balance in the fund included the balance of the 6 million that wasn't drawn down? Or is that in addition to the 61.3 million?
Mr. Chairman, through you, the 61.3 million stated in the motion, the balance as at the end of 30th of September 17 would be the unspent portion in the fund at that time. And so whatever portion. So if for example, all of the 6 million voted on previously, if all of the 6 million was unused, that 6 million would be a part of the 6 to 1. If 2 million of it had actually been used, then the remaining 4.1 would be a part of the 6 to 1.3.
There are no further questions. I put the resolution. Be it now therefore resolved that the expenditures shown on the overleaf schedule totaling $15,650,000 that are expected to be incurred in the 2018 and 2019 financial years be recognized as being in the interest of protecting and preserving the environment of the islands, and two, that the Minister for Finance be authorized to disperse up to $15,650,000 from the Environmental Protection Fund to cover expenditures to be incurred with respect to the matters in the overleaf schedule. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Accordingly, the motion is therefore approved, carried. Members of the committee, as we have gone through the various appropriations and outputs, there have been a number of a few errors that were identified on the actual draft bill, and therefore I would invite a motion from anyone really on the committee to actually propose that we make the amendments. The first one I'd draw your attention to is CIV 11, which under the appropriations to the Deputy Governor. It's on page 24 of the appropriation bill. The title says Servicing and Support for Her Excellency the Governor, and I would welcome a motion that we change that to His or Her Excellency the Governor. Or simply H.E. the Governor. Anyone prepared to move the motion?
Move that HE, the governor, stands.
Yes. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against? No. The ayes have it. The second one is found over on page 26. Under LGA, this is under the appropriations to the Attorney General. LGA 5, Ministerial Servicing and Policy Advice to the Attorney General. I think the use of the word ministerial servicing is probably incorrect. And I would welcome a motion really to simply change that to make it consistent with other appropriations so that it would now say policy advice and administrative support to the Attorney General. The motion is moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The third and final one is found under the appropriations to Cabinet on behalf of the Chief Justice, which we dealt with about an hour ago. EA 145, new courthouse. I would welcome a motion to amend it by deleting new so that it simply reads courthouse. It doesn't relate to the new courthouse. It's maintenance and improvements to the existing.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
The motion is duly moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, now that we have reached the end of our detailed considerations of the items in the schedule to the bill, there are a few more procedural matters that I need to put to the committee before we complete our work. Firstly, pursuant to Standing Order 64-4, I shall put the following question to the committee, that the schedule stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The schedule as amended now stands, I should put the question, that the schedule as amended stand part of the bill. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it, so the schedule as amended now stands part of the bill. Secondly, pursuant to Standing Order 64-5, we need to consider the clauses to the bill. There are only 4 clauses to the bill. Clause 1 reads as follows. This law may be cited as the appropriation, in brackets, financial years 2018 and 2019, close brackets, law 2017. All those in favor of Clause 1 standing part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 1 now stands part of the bill. Clause 2 to the bill reads as follows. The Cabinet may incur executive expenses, acquire executive assets, make equity investments or loans, and undertake borrowing for the financial years 2018 and 2019 in the amounts and for the respective purposes set forth in the schedule. All those in favor of Clause 2 standing part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 2 now stands part of the bill. Clause 3 to the bill reads as follows. Unused appropriations at the end of each financial year shall expire at the end of that financial year and shall not be added to the appropriations for the following financial year. All those in favor of Clause 3 standing part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 3 now stands part of the bill. Clause 4 to the bill reads, no person in any current financial year shall use an appropriation or any part of an appropriation of a subsequent financial year to incur expenditure and to pay for such expenditure in that current financial year. All those in favor of Clause 4 standing a part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Clause 4 now stands part to the bill. The proposed long title of the bill is A Bill for a Law to Appropriate Executive Financial Transactions for the Financial Years 2018 and 2019. All those in favor of the long title that I have just read standing a part of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. The title now stands part of the bill. Pursuant to Standing Order 64-7, I shall put the question that I do report the bill to the House. All those in favor of the bill being reported to the House, please say aye. And those against, no. The ayes have it. The bill will be reported to the House. Honorable members, the committee will meet again on Wednesday, the 15th day of November at 2 p.m. to review the report of the committee and the minutes of the committee's deliberations. Once these are approved by the committee, the reporting aspect of the appropriation bill will be made to the House, and once that is done, the third reading of the bill will be considered by the House. Let us all bear in mind that we must have an appropriation law that is gazetted by midnight on the 31st of December 2017 in order for the government to properly incur expenditures on the 1st of January 2018, the start of the 2018 financial year. No, sir. Not entertaining it. Members of the committee, that concludes all of our proceedings, and I wanted to just reflect as well and thank all members on both sides of the House for the way you've conducted Finance Committee in this session. I truly appreciate it. In sitting in my position, I really appreciate the cooperation that everyone has shown throughout these proceedings, and I think it's probably fair to say we've completed this in very short order. And I think that's a testament to the willingness of both sides of the House to work together to achieve the common good. And so I wanted to go on record in thanking everyone and for your cooperation. And at this time, I'll go ahead and I recognize now the Premier.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd just like to take the opportunity to say to members formally what I've said to some of them informally, is that we propose that once the committee has approved the report, that we return to the House and that the bill be reported to the House, and we go through with the third reading and then continue with government business. I'm conscious that Thursday is private members' motion day, and so private members' business will take precedence over government business. And so we'll try to get through as much of the government business as we can while finishing at a reasonable hour. Do the private members' motions, there are only two. We should get through them comfortably, I would think, on Thursday, and wind up the business of the House on Thursday. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Last thing for me to say is really to members of the committee is to record my thanks as well to my team from the Ministry of Finance. I think they have done an outstanding job in supporting me and in supporting this committee. And they've toiled long and hard throughout this whole process to get us to where we are today. And they do deserve our recognition and our sincere thanks. And Financial Secretary, I'm going to ask you if you would convey to all the members of our team our gratitude for the work that they have done and for all the long hours that they have put forth. Before I actually suspend or conclude the proceedings, I think it's only fair too that I do ask you, Leader of the Opposition, if you may have some final comment. No? Okay. Members of the committee, this concludes Finance Committee. We shall not conclude, we're now suspended until tomorrow at 2 p.m. here in the chambers. Oh, my apologies, in the committee room.